Hi, Ahmed. Thank you for being with us today. I'm looking forward to talking to you about your winning image and just getting to know you as a photographer.
Hi, Rola. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Ahmed, before we start our conversation, can you please just tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm 22 years old. I live in Cairo, Egypt, and photography is a hobby of mine. It's not actually a full-time thing. I'm still a university student. At the same time, I do work as a full-time employee at growth marketing. So I do photography occasionally, like at weekends when I travel. And for example, the award-winning photo was taken at home. So yeah, it's not time thing.
I mean, since you haven't had any formal training in photography and you have your work is in a different domain as well, I'm curious what got you into photography? What got you interested in it?
Okay, so the main reason for that is I'm not really good with words. So like whenever I try to talk about my feelings or something, I'm not really good at it. So photography was a tool for me to express my emotions and tell these stories visually. So just by looking at them, you'd like kind of communicate with me in that sort of way.
Well, I have to say that was just beautifully expressed. I think photography serves that purpose. It's a different kind of language. You're speaking through visuals, and you've done it beautifully in the image that you submitted. Is this image that you submitted, maybe we can share it now, if you can tell us a bit about it. Is it part of a larger body of work? And can you just give us the context, what was happening? What was your idea behind making this photograph?
Sure. So basically I was at home and then it's my niece and my grandmother. So it's her daughter, actually like the third generation. And they're just sitting and playing around by the window as my grandmother like tells her to explore things around the world. So underneath that window there was cats, and then she's like just pointing out at everything and teaching her all of the surrounding environment next to her.
That's so beautiful. The saying that photography reminds you of something worth remembering, and I think in your photograph it pretty much embodies that. We all have very fond memories of our grandparents, and your photograph is in a way the making of a memory. Is it something that, I mean, is your grandmother someone that you usually photograph? Do you have a close relationship with her? How do you approach the composition of this?
Oh yeah, my grandmother is actually my best friend. So we basically have lived together for the past 22 years of my life. She's always there at my home. And then she's always like volunteering to be shot. She's my number one model. So whenever I go, I'm like directing her on how to pose and or I'm just photographing her. She's really photogenic. So I don't do much effort to take the best shots out of her.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It shows. I mean, this tenderness shows in the photograph.
Yeah, really beautiful. Love her.
Yeah, it's tender. It's this like very vulnerable also moment, and you've shown it all in your work. What does photography mean to you? Since it's a hobby, it's a hobby. It's something that you are maybe passionate about, but you don't pursue professionally. I'm curious, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's a tool for expressing my emotions and my thoughts and telling the stories that I want in my head. I just pretty much enjoy it. Like I feel this sort of connection when I tell some sort of story or when I photograph an image that somewhat relates to all the people. Like most of the people growing up had a grandma and they could see their grandmother at that picture. It's not just like, it's somewhat conceptual. It's not on photo of my grandmother. It's like all people relate to that scene. So photography is expressing my emotions and like relating with other people and just being in that like community.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this photo from a larger body of work, or does it stand alone?
Well, it was some sort of a photo session. Like have like additional 6 or 5 photos shot almost at the same time. So I would say it's a project, but like there's a collection of images that is related to that specific moment.
Did you show your grandmother the photograph after it was made?
Oh yeah, she loved them. I actually printed.
You printed it and gave it to her?
Yeah, she's living with me, so
Oh, so sweet. So what are some themes that captivate you in your work? What do you find yourself making photos of mainly?
okay. So I think the main purpose of art is like connecting with other people through the emotions that some artists show in their work, whether it be photography or drawing or anything. So I think the ultimate purpose is just making people feel something from my photography. So I tend to make my photographs emotional as much as I possibly can. That, or at the same time, I try to make them tell a story that people could relate to, or just feel a certain mood from the image.
And what you photograph is usually just, personal subjects, your family, people that you know, people that you have a relationship with it, or is it more about, social issues, stuff that's happening in your country, around you, in your environment? How would you describe the work that you do?
It's mostly personal, like I just show my feelings um, and the people around me. But I would love to take around that photojournalism. I think it's something that I'll be interested in doing in the future. Um, but yeah, so far it has been only for me and the surroundings.
I mean, I think the art of photography is really the way that you tell a story. And you're telling a huge story in this one image that you submitted. It's a moment, it's something, a very simple moment between a grandmother and her grandchild, but it's something that is so universal and that everybody can relate to. So I feel you've really achieved this aim of, expressing your world through your emotions. So I'm going to turn this question on to you. Do you feel that photography can impact people and allow them to see the world differently? Can it affect some kind of change in your perspective?
I would like to ask you, like, what sort of change do you think?
Just a different way of seeing the world,
Like,
often a different kind of perspective.
Yeah, 100%. It's 100% that. Like, I feel like when someone is influenced by like a daily scene that they possibly could not been giving so much attention to, when they see it in a way that tells a story that resonates with them, I think that's gonna give them the ability to appreciate every day much more than they usually were doing. So I think it impacted.
Yeah. How do you go about your creative process? I mean, do you walk around with a camera at all times, and whenever you see a scene, you make a photograph of it, or what's your creative process like?
My creative process is always like, let's go somewhere, let's shoot something. It's not planned at all. Like I go to a random place, I don't know what's going there, but I know that there's a potential out of this place. So I just go there, I don't plan anything, and then I find the subject which is interestingly enough, and then I shoot it. And this is how it's been for the past, like, I don't know, 4 years or something.
So the past 4 years have been you're a more sort of solid path in photography that you've been taking.
Yeah, I don't ever plan my shoots. Like I just I just see that there's a certain place that would look good, and then I travel there or go there, and then I just shoot it.
Interesting. What's your earliest memory in photography?
Okay, so back when I was around 4 or 5, like I had the Sheikh that used to come and teach me Quran, and he had that mobile phone that someone gave it to him from America. It was so rare back then for mobiles to have cameras in it.
Yeah.
So like I always used to play around with it. Like I just would take it from him and then just photograph everything around me. And I just love the process of like capturing a physical moment into making it like live at a device. That was mind blowing for me back then. And then I got my first phone. I think I was a bit old when I got my first phone, like around 12 or 13.
Yeah.
My first smartphone. So yeah, since ever I got any smartphone, the first thing I would do is just play around with the camera and see what I would get out of it. So yeah,
and so
it's
now,
been like that since I got my first camera.
And what was your first camera? I'm curious what kind of camera you used to photograph, to make photographs.
Okay, called Fujifilm X-T13. That was my first camera. I just love this camera as it has that like film feel into it. It has something called film simulation, so I could always just choose a simulation and then shoot. So it gives a vibe of memories to the photography.
Yeah. Do you ever shoot with film cameras?
So far, I've only shot one roll the last year, and I loved it. I was at it's a place in Egypt. I went there and I absolutely loved the process, especially that I did not read about photography before it, so it was kind of messed up, but in a good way. Like it had its own unique feel and look, as the settings was not right, but I do love it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you think you'll keep up with that, with the film photographs?
Shooting film?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like whenever I'm traveling somewhere, I would consider like getting a film camera with me. I feel like the type of photographs that get out of a film camera is totally different than the digital photos. Like, and there's some complexity in the process. Like, you don't know what you're actually photographing, so you can't adjust it like 1 second before after it. So there's some sort of challenge in shooting in film. So I'm always looking for these kind of challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so curious to see the body of work that you come up with, using a film camera.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the next question. What are your plans for your future plans for photography? Any current work that you're doing or any future ones that you're thinking of doing?
Okay, so this question is a bit tricky as I earlier said. I do have my own full-time job, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know really. I'm kind of desperate because I'm interested in digital photography. So I don't know what kind of job would allow me to shoot emotional projects, but at the same time, like get paid and they'll be willing to pay me full time. So I think if I found that, I would 100% love it. But for now, I'm just keeping photography as a hobby at the weekends and when I travel and stuff. So yeah.
Have you exhibited your work? Have you sent it to? Yeah.
Yeah, I've exhibited like I've participated in about 6 exhibitions, and the last year I got my photos exhibited at Italy for the first time.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
That's fantastic. You should definitely pursue it. We want to see more of your work. And then before we conclude this conversation, Ahmed, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm curious what you think. Tasweer is still quite new at the festival, and it's just begun its journey as this grant awarding entity that supports photographers from the region. What do you think that a photography festival today needs to be doing to really support photographers in the best possible way?
So I think you guys are doing a great job already by showcasing all the photographs of the artists and like making partnerships with the museum at Qatar and the stadium and all of this stuff. But one thing I think you could improve the overall experience for photography is making partnerships with international exhibitions, photography exhibitions, to showcase the photographs of all the exhibitors. That's one thing. I don't know if you could also offer mentorship programs for the photographers that were selected. And also, I think for most photographers that I know, the ultimate source of inspiration is just traveling or going to somewhere new. So I think if you could make a partnership with an agency to like select some countries to do some photography trips with the awarded photographers, that would help them to even make more work.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful advice. Thank you so much, Ahmed. It was really it was lovely talking to you. And I hope that you continue making more and more photographs. And I look forward to them. Good luck. Best of luck. And congratulations once again.
Thanks. Thank you. I really appreciate you for taking the time to make this interview.
Thank you for taking the time.